From the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution, I'm Joel Norwood with today's Ag News. Well, we start with taking a look to our friends to the north, up in Canada, where there's an interesting rail situation going on right now, and as Mike Steenhoek of the Soy Transportation Coalition calls it, it remains fluid and uncertain. Now, last night, Canada's two major railways shut down in a contract dispute with their union, forcing a halt to cross-border shipments and posing a significant threat to U.S. farmers. As of this morning, the lockout at Canadian National was over, and the Teamsters Canada Rail Conference had taken down their picket lines and began returning to work here on Friday. But the stoppage at Canadian Pacific Kansas City remained in effect, and operations would not be resuming at that railroad. Now, Canada's Labour Minister did step into the country's railroad stoppage. Dennis Guy reports on more here from Canada.
Just 16 hours after Canada's two primary railway freight lines locked out Teamster Union employees, Federal Labour Minister Steve McKinnon stepped in to order binding arbitration on the parties involved. For some weeks ahead of the deadline, management at both railways had been asking for binding arbitration, while the union had rejected government interference. McKinnon announced that he is invoking powers under the Canada Labour Code to direct the Canada Industrial Relations Board to settle the outstanding terms of their collective agreement. Early on Thursday afternoon, Federal Labour Minister Steve McKinnon said there was just too much potential damage to Canada's economy to allow the railway stoppage to go forward.
The impacts of the current impasse are being borne by all Canadians. We are asking the board to direct a resumption of activities and a return to work at the railways. We are asking them to begin the process of binding arbitration and to extend collective agreements.
Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code allows the government to refer a labour dispute to the Canada Industrial Labour Board to find a solution. McKinnon said he expects a resolution very quickly, but he stressed that this is an independent process. When asked when he thinks trains will start rolling, the federal labor minister would only say that he expects trains to start running again within days. Reporting from Canada, I'm Dennis Guy.
The American Farm Bureau and other farm and trade groups are keeping a very close eye on the situation as U.S. farmers are heavily impacted by what goes on in Canada. They do warn of a cascade of negative market impacts. American Farm Bureau economist Danny Munch.
It becomes problematic when you're not able to move product out of a pathway that you historically have been able to, and that could really impact basis negatively and pressure prices further.
Those are already under pressure from expected record crop yields and large storage supplies that need to move. A little bit closer to home, we're experiencing some dry conditions here in Ohio, and officially, according to the latest U.S. Drought Monitor, it's the worst since the drought of 2012. Our own Matt Reese caught up this week with atmospheric scientist at The Ohio State University and Ohio State Extension, Aaron Wilson, concerning the magnitude of this year's drought.
Ohio is not immune to drought conditions, but when you look at a map that's got quite a bit of red on it, which indicates, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor, this is extreme drought conditions, and certainly quite a bit more extreme drought than we've seen in Ohio in quite some time. As a matter of fact, we're just over 12% of the states covered by extreme drought on this morning's report. And the last time we were close to this was back September 4th of 2007, when about 11% of the state was covered, and not in this part of the state. So this is the greatest coverage of D3 or extreme drought. We've never experienced a D4 since the USDM's inception in 2000. So this is pretty serious. Certainly the precipitation deficits have been mounting throughout the summer across the south and southeast, and although recently some areas have picked up some isolated heavy rainfall, it's not been very widespread, and it's largely missed these areas that we currently see in extreme drought. And with pictures of impacts and things that are happening, I think it's pretty descriptive of what we're seeing out there across the region.
Again, that's Aaron Wilson talking about the drought across Ohio. More information online at ohioagnet.com. And stay tuned. We'll be taking a look at closing market numbers after this week's trade up next.
Did you know soybeans' number one customer is animal agriculture? That includes Ohio's poultry farms. High-protein soy meal keeps poultry farms thriving. Nationally, Ohio ranks second for egg production and ninth for turkey farming. Plus, Ohio produces 526 million pounds of chicken annually. Now that's a lot of birds, and that's a lot of soybeans. Soybeans, feeding the industry that feeds us. Brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Checkoff.
Let's take a look at market numbers as they round out the week in Chicago. Corn fell a little bit here on Friday. September corn off 3 3/4 to 367 3/4. New crop corn $3.91 per bushel, off 2 1/2. Soybeans closed with some strength as USDA reported another private export sale of soybeans to unknown destinations this morning. September beans 10 3/4 cents up to $9.52. November new crop $9.73 up 11 1/2. Next July wheat $5.67 down 7 1/4. Markets thanks to Seed Consultants, simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. August live cattle up 30 cents to $182.58 as October lean hogs 93 cents higher to a price of $80.55. Markets keeping a close eye on railroad strikes going on up in Canada. It remains uncertain and fluid. This is the Ohio AgNet.